Hi, welcome back to Art and Soul. My name is Mike Severin. I'm so glad that I'm a part of your day, that you've allowed me into your home today. Um, Hopefully you can paint along with me. If you haven't seen the show before, I work in oil paints, and most of the time I work on 16 by 20 canvas, although I do work on birch panels if you've watched any of the shows in the past. Um, the same principles apply if you're working with acrylic paints. I just prefer to work in the oils. It's just my own personal preference, although I teach acrylic as well. So one other thing too I wanted to bring up before we get started today. I'm on YouTube. You can look me up on there, Art and Soul, Mike Severin, and you'll see we've got almost 70 episodes that we've recorded over the last 2 years or almost 2 years. So if there's something that you have missed in the past, would like to watch, please feel free to. Leave me a comment on Facebook or my email address, which is on the end of the show. So let's get to our painting that we're going to be working on today. We're working on our standard 16 by 20 canvas, um, and we're working with it in a what they would call a portrait because it's upright versus sideways, which it would be a landscape. And we've got, it's just the way it is with the normal primed. And I like working with this. Sometimes I do shade it with some other color depending on what my painting is going to be. I've had a number of people that have asked about some different techniques. So this painting we're going to start today maybe is going to incorporate some of that in. Some people have wanted to know how to use the palette knife, and we'll probably get into some of that as well. So let's start with, I just want a nice muted background. And how we're going to do that is I'm going to grab, I should go through my palette really quickly. As we do that, I'll do that. We have Payne's Gray here, which is basically just a light black. I normally make my own blacks, but for the sake of the show, just for speed, I use that. We have Burnt Sienna, Dioxazine Purple, Phthalo Blue, Cad Red Medium, Alizarin Crimson Titanium White, and then our yellow Cad Yellow Light. So I've got a little bit of that Payne's Gray on, and I'm just going to touch a few spots. You can see I'm just scribbling a few spots. People ask me, can I, or I tell people I can teach anybody to paint. So see, I can just put in a couple of, see, there you go. Anybody can paint. I can teach anybody to do that. All right, enough goofing around. Let's actually get some painting done here. So I'm grabbing now, I've got some of that on the canvas with that Payne's Gray. I'm grabbing now some of my Phthalo Blue, and I'm just going to a few spots of that. And you're going, wow, what a mess. How are you going to make anything out of all of that? Well, hopefully it'll come together. You'll see here very shortly. Now I'm grabbing my some of that alizarin crimson and a few spots. I want to bring that in. And if you notice, I haven't changed my brush. Still the same brush. Haven't cleaned the brush any at all. And so we've added in a whole bunch of these colors now. The Phthalo Blue, the Payne's Gray, and the alizarin crimson. I don't want to bring a little bit of the Dioxazine Purple, and we're going to bring in a little bit of this. Now, this technique that I'm doing here can be used for a lot of different applications in painting, depending on what you're trying to paint, depending on the background. This is going to give us a real mottled background. a multitude of different colors that are going to be represented, but yet I think you'll see as we get going here how this develops and how we build on it. So I've got my now big 3-inch brush. You can get these at Home Depot, and I'm just grabbing, loading that brush up with the titanium white. And I'm just going to grab a spot here in the middle, and I'm just going to start these scrubbing motions, circular motions. And as you can see, what's happening, we're getting just a beautiful mix of colors that are appearing. Not anything very distinctive at all. And that's the fun of this, is just kind of watching the colors blend and change on the canvas in front of you as you do this, and it's just a lot of fun. And I just grabbed a little bit more of the titanium white, and we're going to come up into this corner here, and we're just scrubbing in these circular motions. And boy, that table easel I use here, just sometimes, especially with as much pressure as I'm applying here, spreading out this paint, just doesn't stand very well. So as you can see, I'm kind of changing the motions of the strokes. Sometimes it's big X's. Sometimes it's more circular in nature. Basically, we're just oh man, boy, we are just having a heck of a time with that, keeping that easel on there. Hopefully you're able to follow this in spite of my little technical issues there. And I'm just grabbing a little bit more titanium white and bringing that in up here at the top. You know, a lot of times I'll start a painting and I don't know where the painting is, where I'm going with it. Sometimes what I'm doing is I'm talking here, I'm grabbing a little bit more titanium white, throw it out on the palette there. You know, a lot of times I'll just start throwing paint down on the canvas, and oftentimes something will come to me as I'm doing it. It gives me inspiration as to what I should paint, and I've said it often over the years that I think sometimes the canvas knows what it wants painted on it. It just needs somebody that's there and listening to it to put it onto the surface. And that's, there's times where I've tried to force things and they just don't seem to work well. And I think that's a big part of it, is because of that, trying to force it. And so there we've got this kind of, you're probably looking at it and going, man, what a mess. But I think there's some really cool things that are happening in it, that I can already see some things that I kind of really like, and directions that you could go with this painting. To me, we've got almost kind of a little sky up here, maybe a little stormy with a little lighter area through the clouds there. Maybe some big swales that are here. Maybe it's out on the water, with the big waves that are there. You know, there's a lot of different things that that happen, like I said, and it's watching those and being observant and kind of letting your spirit, if for lack of a better word, come through. And so, because I kind of like where this is going, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to I think, soften this up just a little bit, just by these big X strokes. And by doing this, it just softens that background up. And then very, very lightly coming over the top of it with just these back and forth motions. I'm going to grab my rag and just wipe out the excess out of my bristles. You know, it's totally up to you what you would like to do with yours. I'm really kind of liking the idea of this being a mountain scene. I'd kind of started with the idea that I would take and do a portrait, but I'm kind of liking just the way that the colors are developed on there, and I think I'm going to do more of a landscape than what I was planning doing before. So I think what I'm going to do is I had talked about using the palette knife, and I want to grab a couple of palette knives here just to show you what we're going to do. Here, where we've got all of these colors here of the alizarin crimson, I really like the colors that are there. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab with this little palette knife a little bit of my titanium white. Now I'm using straight titanium white because remember, we've got a wet paint that's on the canvas here, and as I put the paint on, it's going to start blending with the colors that are already on there. So I think what we'll do is maybe we'll put this peak of this mountain maybe across like this, and pull that out over towards the edge there, kind of pulling that down. Now there's all sorts of palette knives that are out there, and you know what you like, it may be different than what I do, and a lot of it is just taking and figuring out what is your preference and what works for you, what you like. I personally like these angled ones like this. I think that I like, especially for mountains, they just seem to work very well for me. I think a lot of it's just because of the shape that they have with them. And this one we'll just bring down across here. Maybe we'll go up a little bit farther up, maybe with another little peak that's here. Now, as you're doing this, maybe there's a mountain that you would like to paint that's one of your favorites, and that's great. I would encourage you to do that. So I'm just kind of pulling that paint down and kind of following the contour of that hill, of that mountain, and just pulling that all the way down. And again, this one we're following down the angle of that mountain. And really, at this point, all we're doing is just trying to get the shape that we're happy with. And I'm going to grab now just a little bit of my phthalo blue and get a little bit there on the edge. And I've got just a little bit you can see on the thing here, on the palette brush, on my palette knife. And I'm just taking, this would be more of a shadowed side. And obviously, you know, the colors are, you know, chances are you're not going to see colors quite like this out in nature.
but at the same time, I think it's something, the colors would be appealing to people, and I think a lot of different people would like to see something like this have it hanging in their home. So, kind of be thinking about those things. If it's appealing to you, then there's a good chance that there's somebody else out there that it would appeal to as well. So we've got just a really nice little set of mountains back there in the background. And then what I want to do is I'm just going to set that palette knife down for just a minute, and I'm grabbing that big 3-inch brush that we used there to begin with, and I'm just getting the excess paint off of that brush. And right here across the bottom, I just want to take and tap. I don't know if you can hear that. I'm actually tapping quite hard right across the base. And by doing this, it softens that bottom and gives almost the effect of, might be a little bit of a mist that's in there. And I want it a little lighter than that, so I'm just going to touch a few with titanium white. Just got just a little bit on there. And that's just a simple little mountain in the background. And I think that it looks really quite nice. So now I'm going to grab my Payne's Gray and just a hair bit of that dioxazine purple and a little bit more titanium white. And let's just take and make some foothills maybe that are there in the background. Boy, that really is frustrating with having that easel moving around. Kind of. Hopefully you're able to see what I'm doing and follow along. I keep saying it, but I think I'm just going to have to go back. Excuse me, to using my big easel, and we'll just put another layer of mountains that are crossed down here, little foothills that are there, and just by little bits of upward motion, you can give just the feel of maybe their tree tops that are crossed there, and that little difference in the colors there gives the illusion of depth and maybe a little bit more of a little bit of a snow that might be on there. And I'm grabbing just a little bit phthalo blue, and I'm going to go with more of a tree line right across foothills that are here more in the foreground. And we'll pull up the top just to indicate maybe the tops of some trees that are there. A lot of times people ask me, everyone seems to know Bob Ross, and even though he's been passed away for, I think it's been 12 or 15 years ago now, his shows are still on TV and still loved by lots of different people that are painters and or wannabe painters. So this is kind of a little bit kind of on a Bob Ross type of a feel to it. Forgive my coughing there. Maybe we're going to do a little snow scene here. It's kind of looking like that, maybe how this is developing. So I grabbed a little bit more titanium white and put that out there. And maybe what we'll do, in fact, I'm kind of really liking the idea that maybe there's a little bit of a stream maybe that's coming down through. And so I'm going back to that original brush that I had put in the color blobs on the canvas. And we're going to say that that little stream maybe starts back here and kind of works its way across, comes down across, and you know, let's just make this like it goes into a, we'll just go this whole thing down here in like a little bit of a lake where the water's coming down into this little lake with the snow banks there. And so what I want to do is grab a little bit of the dioxazine purple. Haven't wiped my brush, haven't done anything with it, and I want to just take this and pull this down. And what this does, I need a little bit more of the dioxazine, maybe just a little bit of the phthalo blue. I want to just make this a little bit difference in the color so that we can see the lay of the land here, where it's coming down into this bank down towards the river, or the little lake we've got here. And maybe we'll just continue this around. Maybe down here we'll put in some big bushes that are here in the foreground. And then over here on this side, I'm just grabbing a little bit more of this, and maybe a piece of land that comes down, a little peninsula that comes down to where the lake comes in here. And maybe that wraps around as well. I'll go with some straight purple, get this a little darker down here. And maybe the same thing over here. This needs a little darker. Remember, we're underpainting on this episode, which basically we're just getting the outline, the layout of our painting, and getting our base colors there, so that then we have something that we can build on from then on to develop the painting. So I want this a little darker, I think, over here, where it comes down. And we can play with that more as we get into it next week. But that's a good start on that, at least. Maybe a couple of different things where the bank is coming in. I'm kind of liking that as well. And don't be afraid to, make up little stories as you're doing your paintings. This is your painting. You have the artist's license to do it however you want and make whatever statement that you want out of it. That's your prerogative to do. So maybe a few little things here might indicate some distant bushes that are maybe here on this little bank. And that looks really good about like that. And means we're running out of time. Seems like time goes so quickly on these shows. I want to take and put in, you know me, I love putting in trees. And so I think what we'll do on the one side maybe is I'm grabbing just some of that dioxazine purple. And maybe over here on this side we've got this tree that's coming down over there on that far bank, and grabbing a little bit of the Payne's gray there with that. And if you haven't tried this technique, so you just use this fan brush, and now with just the corner of the brush, I'm just going to go back and forth back and forth, applying more pressure as I come down, reload up my brush. And with the fan brush, it very quickly, you can make this look like a fir tree that's over there on that far bank. And I'm just adding more paint as we're going here. There's a lot of different ways of making these fir trees. However is the most comfortable for you is the way to do it. This is one way of doing it that you can very quickly and very fast put in some. We'll go this one maybe just in behind it there. But just by these tapping motions, they just create just wonderful illusions of these trees. And we'll put in one more right about here. And next week what we'll do is we'll come in and we'll add in some snow sitting on the top of these tree limbs that are there. We'll add some more to that as we get into it next week, but that's kind of a nice little simple painting that anybody can do. This is not something that is very difficult at all. It's something that just with a little bit of, I think what it is for a lot of people is more fear. They're afraid to put some paint on a brush and onto a blank canvas and just start playing. As you can see, that's what I did with this. I just put some different colors on my brush, plopped them on all over the canvas with a big brush, blended them together. And you can see this beautiful scene that we've started. So this week, don't be afraid to pull out a canvas, pull out some brushes and some paint, and just start playing. I think you'll find that it's freeing for you. It's going to bring joy to your soul and to your heart. It's going to bring joy to your day and make it go a little bit better. Put a smile on your face. So this week, be inspired, be blessed, and I'll see you next week here again on Art and Soul.